Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. And keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy.
All right, folks, here we are on Thursday, December 19th. We're going to take a look at WeMi today. So, WeMi, out of nowhere, I got probably more messages and requests to cover WeMi than maybe any stock ever over the span of like 48 hours. And so I was trying to get to it yesterday, didn't happen, but here we are today. So I had actually put these levels in here, at least the ones below the red, on I think Tuesday. So on Tuesday, what I was looking at, I think it's still relevant because we're back into this gist. I'll show you in a minute. But I had put this wedge in. So the first most obvious thing to me is there's this uptrend support, which it has sort of reiterated several times since it established it back in like November of 2023, right? Got a bounce here in February, got a bounce here in April, and then a bunch in August and September and November and December. And so that uptrend support seems pretty established to me. Now, less established, but still present, is this downtrend resistance, which would have kicked off around June of this year, and then it sort of confirmed it in October, and then is sort of in the midst of reconfirming it right now. It's where the wicked off of yesterday on Wednesday, and then where it's returning into today. So I'm sort of glad that I waited till later in the day to do this, because when I woke up and saw that it was just flying up through this, I thought, oh, well, unless it gets drawn back into it, there goes that setup. But it is back at that setup. It's down here at the moment, around 101, and it is securely into this wedge again. So let's start with the wedge. I'm mostly interested in the wedge. So if it's going to do something more systemic and less just sort of crazy, like if this one had continued on, right, that's just a crazy run. If it's not going to do crazy run, which we will cover if it's going to do crazy run in a moment, but if it's not going to, what I'm most interested in is that for it to continue to compress between this red downtrend resistance and this green uptrend support, and at some point get a big move to the upside or the downside once it gets overly compressed and breaks out or breaks down. Now, if it runs the full length of it, it's going to take it almost a year to get there. It's going to be like the second half of October of 2025. So I don't know that it's going to run the full gamut. But even if we get into here, like first quarter into the second quarter of 2025, it starts to get pretty tight in there, especially if the stock wants to continue to be this volatile. So that's the setup that's most interesting to me. A clear break one direction or the other, even if it doesn't get super tight down in here, even if it happens relatively soon, a clear break from downtrend resistance, that would mean that it's booming, or a clear break of the uptrend support, which would mean that it's drilling. That is what's most interesting to me. And like I said, even though it wasn't the case earlier today, it is once again back down there. So it somehow has run from a low of 98 cents to a high of $1.50 today, and a volume of 23.5 million so far. And the day's not done. Or at least when I'm recording this, the day's not done. Now, if we do get a break from this wedge pattern to the downside, I have, depending on when it breaks it, I have 86.51 and I have 70. And that is as low as I went. Now, if we need to, we can come in and add in some more. There's probably something here around 63 or so, 60 to 63, somewhere around there. But we can add some into the downside if it does decide to drill. Now, if it gets legs and starts running, 113, 127, 139, we have 150, which it failed to hold today. I didn't see that as a particularly strong level that stood out to me. But yeah, you see some action over here previously. That may not come into play again. I don't know. We'll see if it gets to that level. But to me, the one that stood out more was 165, and then 185 and 204, 205. So to me, that's the approach toward 2 if it wants to go that direction, and it gets really leggy. So that's what I would look at. If it stays in the in the wedge, it's just maybe eventually going to start bouncing around between like $1.03, so just above $1, and 80 high 80s, low 90s, so just above $1, just below $1. And as long as it's doing that, it's staying within this wedge and sort of queuing us up for a potential big pop out of it. EMAs wise, here's the view of the day. Now this is why WEEI is sort of interesting to me, is this 183 EMA. It's hard to see here. It's this gray one. So if you follow this through, it's the slower moving one because it's the longer term EMA, and so it's less sort of shifted by recent price action. But it is now trying to establish right now essentially three consecutive candles above the 183 EMA, and pulling everything, the short-term EMAs, the white 8, the peach 21, and the red 34, which you can barely see, is kind of laying on top of the 183 at the moment, I think. Pulling them into a bullish formation and then having a series of bullish crossovers. So the 8 and the 21 and 34 crossing above the 183. So what I'm most interested in, even if it comes all the way down and tests this 8, which right now is situated about 92 cents. I am pretty interested of the price action over the 183. So if I continue to do that, even if it has these wild fluctuations, and part of that fluctuation is a part of the day where it just drills, like we see here, right? It still is interesting to me as long as it can hold over that 183 EMA on the daily. Depending what it does on the 8, what I'd want to see if it did come down and test the 8 was a clear and pretty quick bounce off of it. Clearly catching support, even if it just kind of rides it like a wave, sticks itself to it, but doesn't dip further in toward the 21, that'd be fine. But I mean, to continue to have a sustainable move that looks like this before it drilled, that's a lot to ask. And you're just asking for pain at some point anyway. So to me, this isn't the worst case scenario unless you bought in up here today and feel like you're getting bagged at the moment, which inevitably some folks are. 28% or so total profited shares were profitable. Total shares were profited at close yesterday. So we'll see how that continues to play. There are some large scale orders coming in today. Nothing tremendous, but it is, outpacing zero just a little bit. So that's my look on the Weeble chart. On the Thinkorswim side of things, this is sort of interesting as well. We had a trigger and a fire that amounted not much of anything, and then a re-trigger, and then like a blip fire that happened yesterday, but then we're back into trigger mode today with the crazy drawdown back into the channel that's happening at the moment. But if we just look at the ATR levels for December and see what happened, it essentially popped up over the call trigger, which is situated at 97 cents yesterday, and then today, in its infinite pre-market wisdom, it shot to and through the +1 ATR fully. That's at 146. As you know, it stretched to 150, and now it's coming back all the way toward, very, very close to at the moment, that call trigger, which is situated at 97 cents. So for all intents and purposes, not tremendous volume or sustainability of it, but it has set off the call trigger and has reached the +1 ATR for the December ATR levels. And right now, if it does move relatively sideways into January, it would come in near the base ATR, which is at about $1, like $1.02 or so maybe. That call trigger for the moment looks like it's at 117 with a +1 up to 166. That said, the put trigger looks to be at about, was that 87 cents or so? Maybe a little less, 86 cents, and with a -1 down to 37 cents. So just a huge range because of how volatile and how crazy it is at the moment. But it was able on the wild action today to reach that +1. So to the extent to which that sort of buries some of the crazy frenetic activity for the rest of the month, that may sort of end up to be the case. We'll see. But nonetheless, to my eyes, this wedge is the most interesting thing that you see here, red to green. And then in the interim, whether we get a a consolidation in here, or we get a break to the upside or the downside, I have these levels that stretch from all the way down to 70 cents all the way up to 205. All right, folks, so I hope that your trading week has been going well. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.